In Screwed News, ever since the Newtown massacre, the gun manufacturing lobby has been pushing for laws that would allow teachers and administrators to carry loaded firearms around schools. And they've succeeded. State legislatures in places like Kansas, South Dakota, and Texas have all passed bills allowing firearms in public schools. The NRA and its gun industry backers are obviously thrilled with these new laws, but not everyone is optimistic about the idea of guns in the classroom. Despite Kansas's new law allowing the practice, EMC Insurance, the company that covers most of that state's public schools, has announced that it won't insure schools that let their employees carry guns to campus. EMC's reasoning is quite simple. As the company sees it, more guns equals more risk and the increased likelihood that it will have to pay out insurance claims. EMC's Vice President for Business Development, Mike Lovell, told USA Today on Sunday that we've been writing school business for almost 40 years. One of the underwriting guidelines we follow for schools is that any on-site armed security should be provided by uniformed, qualified law enforcement officers. Our guidelines have not recently changed. So now that the so-called free market has decided that arming teachers is a bad idea, will the NRA and the gun manufacturers they represent follow its lead? Let's ask Austin Petersen, Chief Executive for Stonegate LLC and editor of the LibertarianRepublic.com. Austin, welcome back. So, armed third-grade teachers?
Well, you know, right, only cops can have guns. I mean, you're more likely to get shot by
a classroom.
You're more likely to get shot by a cop than a teacher, thanks to the war on drugs in this country, Tom. So let's talk about
a classroom.
Well, why don't we talk about civil rights? Let's talk
about
the Second Amendment as a civil rights issue, Tom. So
it's not
if someone has a civil right to eat at a lunch counter, even if it's private property, to express their civil rights, then do gun owners have the right to express their civil rights on public property?
Doesn't a seventh grader have the civil right to go to school without guns in their classroom?
This is a private property issue. So
this is not a private property issue. This is public property. Schools are public schools.
Let's break it down. If the insurance company does not want to provide insurance to a school because of this, and it's a private contract, and the school says that we agree, that's fine. Someone else can step in to fill in the gap. That's fine. It's a private property issue. But gun ownership is a civil right. Right. So, but gun ownership is a public right. It's a civil right, right?
You have a right to own a gun. This is not about gun ownership.
Oh, well, but the thing is that it's whether it's a private contract or whether it's not. This is a private contract.
We're not talking about owning guns. We're talking about carrying loaded firearms into a public school.
Okay, what's your question?
Well, my question is, don't you agree with the insurance company that it's a crazy idea and that these three Republican states that have said, oh, yeah, sure, let's arm third-grade teachers. By the way, they're union thugs and we hate them and they're paid too much, but let's arm them anyway.
Absolutely not.
It's crazy.
Would you put a sign in front of a school and say, hey, there's no guns here? You know, come on, take a look at what happens.
Sure. It's always I would not want to send my
Why are all of the murders being committed in gun-free zones, Tom? They don't happen in the Federal Reserve Banks of New York. They don't happen in the government buildings. They happen in a place where everybody knows there's no guns.
I would not want to send my child to a school.
Well, that's your private choice. That's why we live in. That's why you live in my world, Tom, in Liberty World, because then you get the choice.
There is no Liberty
You can send your school to
when I was a kid,
we
actually found Mr. Clark's condoms once. We found another teacher, one of the kids in our class, made off with her purse and emptied it out the back of the room. I mean, do you really think that third graders are not going to find the gun? A, or B, if they don't find the gun because it's so securely locked up, and some guy kicks in the door with an AR-15 blazing away, that the teachers are going to say, oh, wait a second, just a second, I got to pull out the key, unlock the thing, find the gun, load it.
Good question. It's a good question. Well,
this makes no sense. It's stupid.
Okay, well, I would just have to fall back on Jefferson when he said that I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences of too much liberty than of too little.
This has nothing to do with liberty. It has to do with firearms. It has to do with lead.
Absolutely.
I would rather not be exposed or have my children exposed to the inconveniences of too much lead flying at 735 miles an hour.
That's because timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous seas of liberty, sir.
This has nothing to do with timidity, calm, or seas.
This has to do with
children in public schools.
Yes, you are, and you're sowing fear across
children
the nation.
in public schools.
Yes, you are fear-mongering about an inanimate
Children in public schools should not be exposed to loaded guns.
Well, then let them go to private schools, right? Private schools would be a better choice for their kids anyway if they actually want to get a good education.
Children in public schools should not be exposed to guns.
They should also not be exposed to Marxist indoctrination, but they get that every day, too.
Oh, come on. This is a very, very simple issue. A, it's a stupid idea. B, it's pandering to the gun lobby. C, most of these Republican politicians are paid off, bought and paid for by the gun lobby, which I would think would offend you.
It does.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm not partisan.
Okay. And D, You have an industry driving their product into schools in a way that's actually going to lead to more deaths.
But, so I think you and I agree, because we're talking about choice here. We're saying we want to have more choice. So why don't you give the schools the choice? The insurance company is saying,
No.
we are saying we don't want to insure this school for that. Let the schools choose. Well, then we can get insurance from someone who will.
Public schools are no place for loaded weapons unless it's a police officer.
Okay, well, tell that to the people who bring them in and murder people, because they need somebody to stand on our side. The American citizens need people on their side.
There were armed people when Gabby Giffords was shot. There were 2 people carrying concealed weapons and trained. Neither of them was stupid enough to start firing into a crowd. In New York City,
and that wasn't at a school.
When the cops got a guy in public and started firing in the crowd, they hit 5 bystanders. They didn't hit the perpetrator.
But this is not school.
In a school. In Columbine, there were 2 armed guards. They both had loaded weapons. You know which way they ran when they heard the shots? Away.
And were the teachers or administrators allowed to carry guns?
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
The people who were trained to carry guns.
This is about whether or not teachers and administrators should have a right to express their civil rights to Second Amendment.
I am sorry, Austin. If you've never been in a firefighter, if you've never had a loaded gun pointed at you, you don't get it. It's
I don't know, Tom. I grew up in the mean streets of Peculiar, Missouri.
I have been on the edge of war zones. I've seen people shot. It is, well, okay, enough. Austin, thanks for coming by.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
We'll